All right, let's play a quick game. I want you to grab your phone and I want you to Google physical therapy near me. You see those top three pins on the map? Those clinics, they're basically printing money. And you want to know why? 46% of every single Google search is somebody hunting for local service based businesses, and almost 90% of those searches call or show up that same exact day. If your clinic isn't here, you're not just missing out, you're losing future patients straight to the competitor who is actually showing up. And that is why SEO is so important and what I'm going to be talking about in today's episode. Welcome back to the podcast. I appreciate you guys being here. Think of today's episode as just two people geeking out on simple ways to get your clinic's phone to ring and ring through Google Maps. Okay, we're going to be trying to get more new patients by way of Google Maps. We obviously have talked a lot about like on-page SEO and getting your clinic's website onto page one. Today, what we're going to be talking about is getting you on number one on Google Maps in your area. So we're going to be doing my 4-step local SEO. It's a bit of a gut check is really what it is. And really it's the same audit that I run for everybody inside of Patch. You know, we've seen some pretty huge ROIs from just dialing in and doing this like 4 checkpoint here. And I've also been doing a lot of like free SEO audits on the local side of things as well. So if you want me to go through this 3-point checklist here for your clinic and your business, definitely head on over to the description in the podcast. There's going to be a link there. This is called the Revamp Your Website. There's 4 free downloads there. What I'm talking about today is going to be the local SEO audit. Definitely sign up for that. It's free. I can go through all of this stuff because a lot of these things I'm going to talk about today, it's a little tricky to do on your own if you're not paying, $2,000 a month for a particular tool to do these things. So a lot of people aren't going to have access to seeing where they're ranking on Google Maps, and I'm happy to do it for you. So my goal for today is in about 10 minutes, you're going to know exactly what to look for and to see if you're showing up on Google Maps or not. All right, let's do this thing. So the first thing that I want to go over is going to be, it's just like a map pack heat check. And when I say map pack, what I'm talking about is where is your clinic located on Google Maps? And in particular, where do you rank inside a 5-mile bubble? I think like a 5 miles is super important to remember for all of these things. You don't need to be showing up on Google Maps for somebody that is, say your clinic, your clinic's in one spot, right? If somebody is 30 miles away, you don't need to be number one on Google Maps for that person that's 30 miles away. But do you need to be number one for somebody that's 5 miles away? Probably, yes, for sure. And, most people, and really when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at things in a 5-mile radius. And that's because 72% of people that are looking for local services buy within a 5-mile radius. Okay, so it's so important. 72% of people that are looking for local services, they're buying within a 5-mile radius. Huge, huge, huge number there. What you need to understand is, where are you showing up on Google Maps when somebody searches for you throughout that 5-mile bubble? Okay, so if somebody's 2 miles away from where your actually clinic is located, where are you on Google Maps? There's really one of two things you can do. You can go and you can kind of like stand in a spot, that's within that 5-mile radius. So say again, your clinic is in one spot, you drive 3 miles down the road, you could just search physical therapy and see where you show up. That is one way to figure out where the hell you are on Google Maps, or you can use an SEO tool. And again, if you don't want to pay for that SEO tool, you can let us handle it. So that would be part of the free Revamp Your Website download that you can have. Links in the description for that. What you can do though is you could just search on Google and you can say like, Google Maps, SEO audit, map PAP, ranking, et cetera, et cetera. It's pretty easy to find that. A lot of them are going to be behind paywalls, but that's where you're going to be finding that. The key for this is being top 3 in your 5-mile radius. Anything past top 3, so if you're 4, you're 5, you're number 12, you're ranking 20 plus within that 5-mile radius, then people aren't scrolling, they're not finding you, and you may not even show up, your pin may not even show up actually on Google Maps when people are looking at the map itself. And think about it, when somebody's searching for pizza near me, they're not scrolling to the 8th, 9th, 10th option. They're choosing something in that top 3. In fact, Google tells us that 42% of searchers tap those top pins because, and number 4 is basically invisible. So 42% of people are tapping on the first 3 Google Maps ranking. So understanding where you rank on Google Maps, it's really step one to understanding what you need to do in order to improve your Google Maps and your local SEO ranking. So now we need to talk about what factors go into getting you ranking number one on Google Maps and actually improving those local searches. So the first thing I'm going to dive into is what I like to call digital word of mouth, or Google reviews. Google reviews show how much trust the community has in your service. If you have 100 plus Google reviews, the Google reviews are coming in on a consistent basis and they're actually coming from real people, Google is much more likely to rank you in the top 3 of Google Maps. But if you only have 10 or 20 reviews, your Google review page has cobwebs on it because you haven't gotten one in months, and the only reviews are from your family members, then Google isn't going to trust you and they're going to downrank you from there. And that's where you fall out of that top 3. And, in some cases you're showing up on, 10, 20th down the page. So having a Google review strategy is a crucial way to running a successful clinic. And honestly, it's a non-negotiable if you're a clinic owner. I did a whole podcast on how to get more Google reviews. So if you want to take a look at that, definitely scroll back, because this is a couple months ago. Go in, definitely go back and listen to that. But there are really 2 main ways that I recommend getting Google reviews. One of them is going to be through a CRM automation. So any new patient that comes in the door, they should be hit with an ask for a Google review if they're having a good experience. We usually do this through an NPS score survey to begin with. So they fill out an NPS score survey, and if they give us a positive review on that NPS score, then they will then get redirected to our Google review link. Makes it really easy. Clinics that we set this up for inside of Patch, they're getting anywhere from 4 to 5 Google reviews every month. And that's kind of just on autopilot. You could also run a marketing campaign behind these things as well. We've also done this for Patch members in the past, where we help them raffle something off, and every Google review that somebody leaves is an entry into a raffle. People are raffling off maybe a couple $100 gift card to Lululemon, maybe a free gait assessment. We've had people get really creative with it, where they're offering up Theraguns, something along those lines to get people interested. And it's just a really easy way to get the community involved and really drive those Google reviews. So, this is something that you just need to be doing, and it always just needs to be top of mind. You can't just like one quarter be like, all right, I'm going to put a bunch of effort into getting Google reviews and then forget about it for the next 3 quarters and then try to do it again. That is also not helpful. So as a clinic owner, you need to always be pushing Google reviews. All right, so step number 2 to getting number 1 on Google Maps, it's also about trust. But this is something that no clinics ever talk about. And it's all about getting yourself on the local directories to show that you're a legit business. So ask yourself, how many local listings back up your NAP, or your name, address, and your phone? Now, you may have no idea what I'm talking about, and that's totally fine. There are tons of websites out there that are what we call local directories. These are things like Google My Business and Facebook. Those are the most common ones, but there's also Bing and City Search and HotFrog and Easy Local, and there's tons of other local directories that are out there. Don't get me wrong. People aren't going to search for the best physical therapist near me on Bing, go to your website and convert from there. You're just not going to get patients that way. Nobody uses Bing, right? Like that's not really what I'm talking about here. Why you need to be listed in these local directories is super simple. When Google is trying to figure out how to rank you on a map, it crawls these directories to see who's listed. If you are listed in most of them, then Google's going to think you're a legit business and will be more likely to rank you on Google Maps in the top 3. But if you're not, Google may think you're out of business because you're not listed and therefore not recommend you in the top 3. So here's the deal. You have to be in Google My Business, Yelp, and Healthgrades, and Facebook, and you need to be on Apple Mats and Rehab.com, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 87% of people use Google to judge a business. Since these across lists, all these different listings, it just means trust. And the more trust you have with Google, the more likely Google is going to be to put you on top 3 on Google Maps and also on page 1 of actually Google. There are tons of crawling sites out there that can tell you what listings you're in and what you're not in. definitely go and use those. Again, you can just do a simple Google search of a local business directory. It'll tell you where you're showing up and where you're not showing up. This is also part of the free local SEO audit if you are interested in doing that. Again, head over to the link in the bio. I'm happy to do it for you. The last thing, and probably the most important thing of getting you into top 3 on Google Maps, is optimizing your Google My Business profile. Think of this as your clinic's mini website that Google actually owns. It's prime real estate. You need to treat it like Times Square, not just a dusty bulletin board. The average local Google My Business profile for local services pulls in just over 1,200 profile visits a month, and 45% of clinics get appointment requests straight from that page. So again, like we're talking, the 1,200 Google My Business profile visits. This is for local services, which is super important for us to know because as clinic owners, we are a local service, and people that are looking for things locally, they are going to Google Maps. Google Maps is all about your Google My Business profile. These things need to be dialed in. If your Google My Business profile looks half-baked, it's not consistently updated, and it looks like you may be out of business, then you're probably leaking new leads that you could potentially have. So what you need to do is you need to start with the basics. You need to make sure that physical therapist or sports rehab or whatever you actually offer shows up at the primary and the secondary categories. I always like with the primary category, there's physical therapy, physical therapist, physical therapy clinic. You need to choose and you need to figure out which one you want to go with. This is a little bit where the strategy piece comes in. What I like to do is I like to see what my competitors are doing and see if there's things that I can improve on, see what categories they're listed in, and make my decision from there. You can also sprinkle service keywords in the description. You don't want to keyword stuff with certain keywords that are in there. You just want to make sure that your keywords are there, that they're naturally and in plain English. And when your patients go to it, they are educated and entertained by whatever you're putting in the description. You also want to make sure that you're adding photos to your Google My Business page. This is one of the things that I often see of when I go and look at somebody's Google My Business profile, their photos haven't been updated in 4 years, which is not good. So ideally, you're uploading new shots monthly. These can be team pictures or patient success stories, even somebody hitting a PR on a squat rack, something along those lines. Google really likes fresh media, and humans click what looks like it's actually like a legit photo of a working clinic. I always like to do this seasonally, right? Okay, and I might be biased because like in Boston, we could post photos in the summertime of people running, and in the fall of people out hiking, and in the winter of people skiing, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe if you live in California, you're not able to do that because you kind of just have one season, but think about what's going on that time of year. If people are pushing more towards running because it's marathon season, then post stuff about that. If it's, a little bit more like in the winter time and people are lifting weights a little bit more, then post something about that. The last part of optimizing your Google My Business profile is the post side of things, okay? So you want to drop an update every 1 to 2 weeks. Maybe you're reposting a blog that you put up. Maybe you're updating your holiday hours. You're adding a quick tip. Basically, all this is doing is just signaling we're open, we're active, and that's going to bump visibility for you. You can also add in some like Q&A on there as well, just to give people a little bit more context. So it's like, do you take insurance? Do you treat runners? Do you do dry needling? You can add products on there. There's lots of things that you can actually do, and this is what we need to do. Is we need to not be mysterious to a potential patient. We need to answer questions for them before they even come in and they book a discovery call. Because buyers are super educated now, and if we're not educating them before they are taking that first step with us, they're probably never going to take that first step because we haven't built any sort of trust with them. So adding in all of these things is really just building trust with the potential patient and getting them to come in. So, all right, that's your playbook to getting to number 1 on Google Maps. I think this is super important in 2025, 2026, 2027, and ongoing. I think Google Maps is going to be the best form of SEO that you can have for your clinic. I think this is going to become one of the most important ways of dialing in your online presence and getting new patients in the door. I think with like AI search coming, I don't think Google is ever going to lose their actual local search side of their searching. I think people may end up going to ChatGPT and doing more like research and knowledge-based searching, But I think if somebody's looking for a restaurant near me, physical therapist near me, massage near me, whatever that might be, something local based, Google is still owns that 100%. I think they're always going to own that. They might lose out on some of the actual search volume, but they are never going to lose this Google Maps aspect of their business. And for us, this is going to be, one of the biggest lead generation sources that we can have. So that's a quick recap. What you need to figure out, right, is like you need to figure out, where does your business show up in a 5 mile radius on Google Maps? Where and what directories are you located in? How many Google reviews do you have? And then making sure that you're optimizing your Google My Business profile to its best ability. And again, if you want us to run this audit for you, you want to see where you're ranking in a 5 mile radius, you want to see what directories you need to be listed in, you want to see if you need to optimize your Google My Business page, head on over to the show notes. There's a free download there. I'll bang it out for you and I'll show you where the holes are, and you can decide if you want us to help plugging them for you. So appreciate it. If you guys have any questions for me, find me on Instagram @_Jeremy Dupont. Make sure you subscribe to the pod, and I'll talk to you next week.